Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 293. We are continuing our series today about executive function skills and breaking it down into small bite-sized chunks so you can make a real impact in your homeschool. Today we're talking all about working memory, and we're going to kind of put it on training wheels, take it easy using visuals, checklists, and other micro prompts to help our kids get through their day. Because sometimes that working memory can fail us, parents and kids, in the middle of a busy homeschooling day, especially when we are constantly interrupted with all sorts of the things that go wrong or happen in life. So I want to remind you that we can do this. We are all in this together, and executive function skills can be built as long as we are slowly working at that a little bit at a time. I have a resource for you over on the show notes for this episode at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. Some easy morning routine task cards and structure to help you and your kids set your homeschool up for success. And I want to thank, as always, CTC Math for their continued sponsorship and support. We really appreciate them and all that they do to make this podcast happen. I also want to thank Night Zookeeper. They've been a great sponsor for these last few months, and I really appreciate them. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about CTC later on in this episode, but right now I want you to pop your earbuds in, get ready for this great information and practical packed episode, and we'll get right on with it after this word about Night Zookeeper. Hey there, if you are looking for a fun and stress-free way to tackle language arts in your homeschool this year, let me tell you about something that could be a total game changer for your homeschool, Night Zookeeper. It's an award-winning online program that helps kids ages 6 to 12 build their writing, reading, and spelling skills. And the best part? They actually love it. Seriously, it's so engaging and interactive that your kids won't even realize they're learning. We used Night Zookeeper in our homeschool when my girls were younger, and they had a blast creating stories and characters. This fall, my youngest son is jumping in, and I'm especially excited because he's a bit of a reluctant writer. I love knowing he'll get gentle encouragement and even personalized feedback from real tutors, so I don't have to be the one hovering over to correct all his errors and help him become a better writer. He will have somebody else helping him. Here's why homeschoolers like me love Night Zookeeper. It's fun. Kids can play independently through thousands of games and activities for grades 1 through 6. It's comprehensive, covering reading, writing, spelling, grammar, and more. It's trackable. You get a parent dashboard to monitor progress and even assign custom tasks. It's personalized because the tutors inside Night Zookeeper give feedback on your child's writing, which is huge. And it's offline too. There are free monthly printables delivered right to your inbox. Oh, and better yet, there's a 7-day free trial, so your kids can dive into the magical world of Night Zookeeper risk-free. You can check it out at the link in the show notes or at nightzookeeper.com. And let me know what your kids create. I have a feeling they are going to love it. And I want to give a special thanks to Night Zookeeper for sponsoring the podcast. It's sponsors like that keep the podcast going. We appreciate their support, and we want to show support in return. So if you're in the market for a new language arts program for your kids ages 6 through 12, you definitely need to check it out. Let them know that you heard about it on the Raising Lifelong Learners podcast, and let me know if you have any questions. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you. All right, are you ready? Let's get on with today's episode. Hey there, welcome back. Like I said in the introduction to this episode, we are talking all about working memory, and we are going to break it down into bite-sized pieces so we can help our kids help themselves, continuing along in this executive function series. Don't forget that there is a download available for you that goes along with this series to help you set up your mornings for success over at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast, where the link to that and all of the other resources we talk about today are on the show notes.
Okay, picture this. Your kiddo loses the thread between the kitchen table and the sink. The whole conversation just goes out of their head. It's not necessarily stubbornness or forgetfulness or distraction, it's working memory. Today, we're going to add training wheels so that your kiddo can hold on to step by step instructions, finish the things that they start, and feel proud of what they're doing. All right, this is particularly good for those kiddos who are neurodivergent, specifically ones who struggle with ADHD, are autistic, maybe have some anxiety, are dyslexic or dysgraphic, and have any other kind of twice exceptionality that keeps their brains working at a pace that has it unable to keep up with all of the things going on. I promise you'll leave this episode with ideas that you can implement today, including a micro prompt library. You might need to revisit this episode a couple times or take some time after it to brainstorm your own library of what will be useful for your family, but also a 1-week plan to get going and try some of these things out, just like the last couple of episodes. Again, don't forget to grab the executive function quick start guide for mornings that work. All right. So first, we're going to talk about working memory. What is it actually? Working memory is holding information in mind while you do something with it. So for example, multi-step directions, mental math, writing sentences, going through with your morning routine or your afternoon routine or your bedtime routine. It might look like this. You tell your kiddo to put their dishes in the sink and wipe the area of the table where they ate. The dishes might get to the sink, but the wiping never happens because that's out of their mind as they're doing the other thing. Their working memory isn't continuing. Or your kiddo writes a great opening sentence to a paragraph and then totally forgets where they were going with it, and sentence 2 just cannot happen and it leads to meltdown. Maybe they can explain a topic verbally, but they can't translate it to paper. It's really hard for neurodivergent brains because they have a cognitive load already. And when there's too many steps at once, their brains just can't handle it. They also struggle with weak cueing. Instructions just vanish for them sometimes once the words are spoken. And like we talked about a couple episodes ago, time blindness is a thing. They don't really have a sense of time. So they're not quite sure how long to hold on to the information or how long it's going to take them to do the thing. So they lose track of it in the process. And then finally, stress, sensory noise, anxiety, all of the things that plague our twice exceptional kids eats away at working memory because, again, their brains are kind of like living in the fight, flight, freeze response, and they just can't hold on to it. So I want you to remember as you're listening to this episode, there's nothing wrong with your kiddo. The instructions are invisible to them, and their brains just can't hold on to the information in a way that allows them to use it. So we are going to work to create a toolbox of strategies to make the instructions visible to them and shrink them down to bite-sized pieces so your kiddos can actually use the information. The first thing we want to do is we want to get out ahead of the working memory struggles, make it visible, and get the information out of our heads and our kids' heads and into the environment surrounding them. So one idea you can use is to create a working memory command center. This could be like a whiteboard in your kitchen or your schoolroom or wherever your family tends to gather. And you can write, or you can use chart paper. We've got this really cool sticky note chart paper. And you can create 3 columns, one that says now, one that says next, and one that says parking. Use sticky notes, or you can create your own rhythm cards. Whatever you use, have one card or one sticky or one piece of paper per step, one verb per card. So for example, you could say to your kids, okay, we're going to move brush teeth to now. When it's done, we're going to slide it over to the done column and we'll pull the next card. Parking is where you have all of your cards waiting for you, or your sticky notes, or whatever it is you're going to use. So the working memory command center is a great strategy to move cards and make it very visible what kids have to do. You can also use one card directions. So instead of giving your kids a lot of instructions at a time or multiple steps to an instruction, replace that multi-step talk with one visible card. So maybe you have an index card that has the morning routine written on it, and it says brush teeth, wash face, get dressed, put dirty clothes in the laundry, wipe down sink. It's got everything right there as a little checklist, and that lives next to the sink where they do the job. So instead of telling your kiddo, clear your place, put the dishes in the sink, wipe down the table, and push in your chair, post a clear visual, an index card that has those things written out for them so they know the order of events and the activities that they need to do without fail. You can also use visual timers. Place a visual or an analog timer near whatever you're using. Maybe it's the command center, maybe it's your cards, and coach your kids. They see the card, they say the step, they do the step, and they check back in within the time you've both agreed on is an appropriate time for it. If that causes too much stress for your kids and the act of having the timer there counting down is difficult, instead of a timer, have a clock. So they can look at the clock, note down the start time, and then do the activities that are on the card and then check back in with the clock to see what the end time is. So they start to get a sense of how long each of those multi-step directions takes them. So how long does the morning routine take? How long does it take to clear their place at the table and clean everything up? Placing a clock or a timer nearby gives them the opportunity to start chipping away at the time blindness because they start to put the times into perspective. When you're working through these things with your kids, maybe you like the idea of a working memory command center. Maybe you like the idea of one card directions posted at all the different places in your house where you need them. Or maybe you like the see, say, do strategy with a clock and you use that. Whatever it is, make sure you're coaching your kiddos through it. Show me the card that you're on. Say it once and then do it. Don't keep repeating yourself. Check the time. Tell me what time you're starting. Now check the time and tell me what time it is now that you're stopped. When you use these lines with them and you repeatedly keep up with them and help them through it, you're coaching them, but you're also helping them integrate the information into their own bodies and minds, and it becomes more and more natural as they do it. Okay, so that's one strategy, getting things out of their heads and out of your head and into the environment so they can see it. Now, let's talk about checklists that don't overwhelm. And that micro prompts library I was talking about at the beginning of the episode. When we're using micro prompts, when we're using checklists, we want to make sure that we don't overwhelm our kids. So if we're using the idea of micro checklists, like those cards that are posted all over, we want to make sure that there's only like 3 to 5 different steps or different things to do on their checklists max. More than 5 things is a plan. It's not a checklist. And we want to make sure that our kids are using a checklist so they start to get things down. So for example, if we're doing a micro checklist, say we're doing a micro checklist that is just about doing an activity in their language arts curriculum, for example. So take your index card or your piece of paper or whatever you're going to use for your checklist and write down the different things you want them to do using action verbs. Write a title on the page. Write the date. Number your paper 1 through 10. Answer numbers 1 through 5. Answer numbers 6 through 10. And then they're done. You've broken it down. It's a micro checklist that goes along with just that assignment. So they can forget about having to organize their own executive function skills. You're doing that part for them, the planning and the prioritizing, so that they can initiate their task, get the information and the actions out of their working memory, and follow the checklist. We can also start breaking things down into tiny bricks so that momentum appears. So if they're still struggling maybe with the step to write the date down, maybe you break it down for them even further. Okay, grab a pen, write down the month, write down a slash, then the day, then another slash, then the year. Model it for them. Here's the thing. So often we get caught up in the idea that our kids should be doing something by a certain age because other kids their age are able to handle it on their own. And yeah, maybe most 10-year-olds can handle writing the date on their paper by themselves without breaking it down to month/day/year, but your kid might not be there yet, and that's okay. Remember that gifted and twice exceptional kids are asynchronous, and they're asynchronous for their whole lives. So you could have a college student that is struggling to get started on something. You could have a kindergartner that is struggling to remember not to throw mulch. Whatever it is, your kids are where they are in the areas that they're there, and we just need to meet them in all of those areas and move them forward. And so maybe your 10-year-old does need you to break down the writing the date out into steps so that they can internalize it. This doesn't make them wrong or broken or bad, and it doesn't make you a failure. It just means you're working to meet your kids where they are and help them learn and grow. And that's an amazing thing. So be proud of that and know that you're doing exactly what you need to do. Okay, so the next thing we can do to help with these micro checklists and these prompts is to create a library of things that our kids do or that we ask them to do regularly so that we can break it down for them and we can use them like cue cards. Mix and match them, keep the language consistent, but you're going to create them for different categories. Now, I didn't create a printable for this. This is something that you can do on your own by just getting index cards or sticky notes and writing some different things down, things that relate specifically to what you and your family does on a daily basis. So let's talk about some general academic things that you can put on these micro prompt cards so you can build a micro prompt library. So maybe you're doing some reading and you say, okay, find the title and read it aloud. Point to step 1. What does it say? Write the date in the top right corner. Start with 3 words. I'll count. This is a great one for writing. For your reading lessons, write a box around the headings for each section on this reading. Read the first sentence aloud to me. Tell me what it's about. Finger trace while you read to the end of the sentence. Great. Now stop, breathe. Some writing prompts you can use. You talk. I'll type the first sentence. Add 1 detail. It can be a color, a size, or a feeling word. These are micro prompts. You're asking them to do one thing. Okay, write your period, a space, and a capital. So they're ending a sentence, spacing themselves out, and starting a new sentence. For math, circle the operation. What type of problem are you doing? Do the first one with me. Let's say each step out loud. Estimate first. Is this closer to 10 or 100? This type of prompt anchors their attention to one specific thing and gets them focused. How about these prompts for chores to get you started? Hold up the object you're putting away next so I can see it. Do you know where it goes? Great. What is the first thing you need to do when you get up in the morning? Make your bed. Excellent. Count 10 things to put away. You're all done? Great. Come back for your next prompt. Okay, now go put away those 10 things and then come back to me. A micro prompt library is simply a list of, a collection of cards for, a bunch of sticky notes for, prompts that you're going to use to help your kids move to the next step without overwhelming them and their working memory with lots and lots of steps. All right. So let's think about some different ways that we can help our kids build their working memory so they can retrieve information and recall what they've maybe read or heard or done without rereading it, redoing it, or rechecking the work. One great strategy, and I love this strategy, is the 30-second teach back. Okay, so after a short read aloud or a demo or a video, set a 30-second timer and tell your kiddo, teach it back to me using 3 main points. Now, here's the other thing about this. Some of our kids get really stressed out with timers, so you can eliminate the 30-second part and just say, teach it back to me with 3 of the most important parts. You, while they're teaching it back to you, can write those 3 different parts on sticky notes and then put it under done if you've got a working memory command center. Another great strategy for recall is to use the look away retrieval method. So have your kiddo look at a diagram or a picture or a paragraph for a good amount of time, 20, 30, 40 seconds. Look away and then tell you about it using their memory for about 20, 30, 40 seconds. And then look back and compare. What did they get right? What did they miss? You can play this game. We used to play this game when my kids were little at the table. We'd put some objects in the middle of the table while we were eating dinner or having a snack, and everybody would look at it for 20 seconds, and everybody would look away and close their eyes, and I would take one of the objects and hide it, and everybody would look back and they would try to figure out what object was missing. Really great, fun game for working memory. Another great strategy for helping our kids with retrieval is the spaced kind of quickie. It's the same as a micro prompt, but you're multiplying it multiple times a day. So maybe you're using the micro prompt of teach it back to me in 3 points, and you're having them do it about a minute after they've learned it. 3 hours later, say, hey, can you tell me those 3 points again? And then the next morning, hey, can you tell me those 3 points you taught me yesterday again? And you're keeping it playful. If your kids are starting to be resistant, you could say, hey, can you go explain to Daisy over there, or whatever your dog's name is, what you just learned in one sentence. So you can mix it up. But having them reply to that prompt again and again helps them retrieve the information for that particular thing, sure, but it also teaches their brain to retrieve information and recall it from other situations too. Something you can say to your kid to take the pressure off, hey, can you teach it back to me in 3 points? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just let me know what's stuck in your brain.
Okay, so let's talk about math. Specifically, let's talk about finding a program that actually works for your unique homeschoolers. In our house, we've been using CTC Math for years, and even though I am so appreciative that they sponsor this podcast, I am a paying customer. I'm still a paying customer even with their sponsorship because it's just that good, and I love supporting great companies with great programs. With 2 kids still at home, both with very different learning needs, CTC Math has been the flexible and dependable solution that I keep coming back to. One of my kiddos needs more time to process math concepts, and I love that she can move through the lessons at her own pace without feeling rushed or behind. My other kiddo, he flies. He jumps straight to the end of unit tests to see what he already knows, and then we only focus on the lessons that fill the gaps. That kind of customization is gold when you're homeschooling gifted or twice exceptional kids. CTC Math gives you the access to every grade level, from kindergarten through 12th grade with your subscription, so that your child can accelerate, review, or jump around based on their own needs, not based on some rigid curriculum structure. And because it's video-based with clear instruction and auto-graded lessons and quizzes, it frees me up to support my kids without being chained to a textbook, teacher's manual, or whiteboard. So whether your child needs more time or is racing ahead, you can tailor it all with CTC Math. Check it out at ctcmath.com. You will see why so many homeschool families trust it. And if you've got quirky math learners like I do, I think you're going to love it. If you have any questions about CTC, like I said, we've been using it for years in our homeschool, and I encourage you to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. If you do pop over there, let them know that I sent you, and let them know that you appreciate their ongoing support of homeschoolers everywhere, especially those of you here at Raising Lifelong Learners. All right, let's get back to today's episode.
All right, so now back to building our toolbox. So you've had some different strategies. You've had some retrieval practice. You've had micro prompts, checklists, and then the command center and other ideas. So let's talk some more about some of the things that will work for kids with very specific neurodivergent profiles. So let's talk about ADHD kids first. ADHD kids tend to be, like we talked about last week, novelty seeking. So with those kids, you want bigger visuals. You want to swap the card color weekly or the pen color you use. You want to use sand timers for some of those micro bricks. You want to use something that appeals to their sense of novelty, but also piques their interest. If they are kids who do well with competition, you could do a beat the sand timer game, complete a single problem before the sand runs out, or complete a single chore, or reply to you and recall information by talking it back to you before the sand timer runs out or whatever. But this only works if your kids aren't resistant. And I always say that because it's the advice a lot of people give, but I've raised a couple of kids who shrink and get really upset and or shut down when timers are involved. And so I never want anybody to feel that's the only way it can happen and there's something wrong with your kid if they don't like timers. Okay, so maybe your kid is a rigid thinker. Maybe they are autistic or are not very flexible in their thinking. And so you need to make sure that there's structure involved. So maybe you use the same board layout all the time for your command center so they can see what's there. And instead of icons or instead of words, you use real photos of what their room's supposed to look like, what the table's supposed to look like, what their word problems or papers are supposed to look like. You reduce words, give them photos, give them very concrete evidence about what things are supposed to look like. You teach things and do things in a predictable order. You keep the pens and tools and colors the same day to day. Their supplies are in the same predictable spot, and you're working through a routine so they get used to it. Okay, for an anxious kid, someone who struggles with anxiety or worry, you want to use low demand language. Let's just try one brick and check in. Offer an opt-out. If your body is rebelling or you're feeling uncomfortable or you just want to say no, let's just reset, try an even smaller brick and then come back to it. Again, coming back to it is the important part of that. And then you can use errorless starts. Copy the first line and then continue. They're not going to mess that up because they don't have to think about it. They're just copying verbatim something, and then they can think about and add details of their own later. For kiddos who have dyslexia or dysgraphia or another learning challenge, you can pair audio and text. You can use the scribe first strategy. You can use speech to text for brainstorming. For decoding, you can use an overlay ruler or some cellophane to put a color over top of it. You can use a larger font, tinted paper if that's helpful. Whatever strategies help your learning challenged kiddos' brain work better and understand it better, because we want to make things low barrier for them. And then if you've got a perfectionist or a twice exceptional kid, you can post a done statement before starting so that they know what the finished product is supposed to look like, but then really praise their first imperfect start. Especially if there's imperfections, praise that, because it's very, very brave to try something and then fail. We want to teach our kids to have a messy first pass at things and then polish it later. Really important for our perfectionists. Okay, some of the snags that we're going to have when we're working with our kids on their working memory, and then some of the things that we can do. Maybe your kiddo ignores the command center board. Okay, so move the board to a place where their body is. Reduce it to one now card and add a show me the card ritual. So have one card or one sticky note or whatever, no more than one, and then have them read the card aloud to you or show you the card at the end of it. Maybe they get stuck between steps. You can add a bridge card. Okay, your bridge card might say breathe and sip water, then read the next card aloud. You're giving them an option to slow down, take a break so they don't get stuck, and then they use that as a transition to move on. Maybe they can't hold two-part directions. Okay, don't. Do one card at a time. When you slide it to done, that's when you hand them the next card. Maybe timers stress them. I've told you this before. Use a silent timer like a sand timer or 2 songs instead of a clock or a countdown. Maybe siblings derail their focus. Stagger their start by 5 minutes or 3 minutes, or stagger the rooms that they start in, or have them start in opposite corners of the room. Have a headphones basket or noise canceling like earpods, or we use loop earplugs. They're really great for tuning stuff out and reducing the sound. You can color code each child's cards or their supplies or whatever, but have something separate for the siblings so they don't derail each other. All right, maybe they're great in the morning, but there's chaos by the time 2 p.m. comes around. Move the shorter things to the afternoon. So use the things that they need, do the things that they need to concentrate for longer in the morning, and then have shorter afternoon bricks and tasks. Re-regulate them first, and then prioritize 1 academic finish, not 3 for the afternoon. All right. Are you ready for your action steps for this week? I really want you to think about what works best for yours and your kiddos' working memory, break things down, and really get started step by step, and then check back in a week, either with yourself or shoot me a message. I'd love to hear it and cheer you on. Okay, create a command center that has now, done, and parking so that you can take it from parking, put it in now so they can see what they're working on, and then move it to done, and then take the next board or the next card from the parking lot. Pick one routine, just one routine that you're going to work on. Maybe it's the morning routine, maybe it's the math routine, maybe it's the chores routine, but just pick one. And then use 3 micro prompts from the library of micro prompts all week. Just use 3. So work on one routine, have your command center, and have 3 micro prompts and just work on those. Do a 30-second teach back after one of the tasks each day, and then celebrate first steps out loud, especially if they're messy first steps, every single time. Okay? When you get to the end of the week, reflect back, see what's working, see what's not, see what you want to keep, and then add a few things on if you're successful in any one of those areas. Okay? You've got this. You absolutely can do this. Your kids' working memory can improve, and so can yours. Play some games, make it fun, make it playful, but you've got this. All right. Don't forget to grab the Executive Function Quick Start from the podcast show notes for this episode or either of the last 2. If you didn't catch episodes 291 or 292, go back and listen to those so you can start at the beginning of the Executive Function series. And just take it easy. Celebrate successes. Don't overly worry about the setbacks because remember, your kiddos are neurodivergent, they are asynchronous, and they're going to make their progress when and if they can. You're setting them up for success and giving them the tools to grow in their executive function skills. Make sure you share your 7-day results with me. You can tag me on social media. You can shoot me a DM. You can shoot me an email at support@raisinglifelonglearners.com, or you can join us in the Learners Lab. You can cancel at any time. Just join us for a month, try it out, and lead the conversation in the forum and in the chat and let us know how you're doing. All right, next week, we are going to be talking about finishing what we start. So the executive function skill of completing a task, okay? And take it from start to finish. Bite-sized executive function skills, one at a time, and we're going to finish what we start. I hope to see you there. I want to remind you to thank CTC Math and Night Zookeeper for all of their support of this podcast. Reach out to them if you're looking for a great language arts program or a phenomenal math program. You can't go wrong. There will be plenty of resources for you to check out related to executive function struggles and skills in the show notes for this episode. And again, I invite you to join us in the Learners Lab. It's a great place for families to connect and kids to get the resources that they need and moms to get the support that they need. I hope to see you in there, and I'll be back same time, same place next week with finishing what you start. Talk to you soon. Have a great week. Bye for now.